Hey everybody, Kale here. Welcome back. I know it's been a minute since I've posted a video. I apologize. You know, that life sometimes can happen. That's what it can do. Good things, busy things, but yeah. Okay, so I wanted to get on here and share a message that came through. I'm trusting the timing on it. I have felt, even though I've been like, oh man, is it still relevant? I have still felt the impetus to put it out there. So I'm gonna share that. So when I sat down at one point to do the channeling, the image that came through was like immediately being on a mountaintop. Okay, and there was like a crumbling, like the mountain was like giving way underneath my feet, but like not quite directly. It was like further down into the mountain, or maybe into the core of the mountain, but like, you know, it's like I could feel it, and almost immediately I was like transported or carried or teleported, something, but it feels that like I was moved to this other mountaintop, or like mountainside. It was kind of like rocky, like I'm sitting on the rocks, and like now my perspective is almost like a completely like kind of like frontal view of the mountain I was just on. Okay, and so immediately from that, I get like a few things, right, which is kind of a change in perspective, and also like a movement into like kind of a safety, or like a safer or more secure space. And so it's like you're still watching the crumbling happen, but you're oriented and positioned differently, that keeps you safe, and like I said, gives you a different perspective. It's not immediately under your feet. So, you know, however that lands for you, like it could, you know, that could be whether it's a perspective shift that allows you to feel more secure with what it is that's going on. It doesn't maybe then perhaps feel as personal or as scary. Maybe for some there really is like a movement into this kind of like safer space, or more secure space, and perhaps you're still watching kind of like the playing out of kind of the former thing, but you're moved into that position of safety and security. There definitely was a sense of calm, and I noted again the immediacy of the move. And so alongside that, what I had pulled was a card from the Green Witch's Oracle deck, and the card that came out was Mortar and Pestle. Okay, Mortar and Pestle, and integration, subtlety, and thoroughness is what this card represents. Okay, I'm just gonna read a little bit. I'm gonna read from it. Okay, it says card meaning. The goals of Mortar and Pestle are twofold. First, to reduce the size of something, and then to combine ingredients. In a spell, in order to evenly combine your components, you need to break them down into smaller parts. The grinding motion used with a mortar and pestle can appear aggressive, and applying too much force can make your ingredients fly everywhere. Use finesse. Be gentle but thorough. Take the time to blend things evenly. This card tells you that something in your life needs to be better incorporated. It could be as simple as integrating your practice into daily life, or something more complex, like finding balance between two relationships. Whatever it is, take it slow, or you'll scatter what you're trying to integrate. And then the reflection question is, what parts of your life do you need to blend more seamlessly? And so when I kind of connect the two, you know, part of me wonders, like, there's a few things, right? There's this movement from one mountaintop to this other space, right? And so now there's like this distance, you know, there's a different perspective, there's a distance that's happening there. And so perhaps for some, there's, you know, an integration that is able to take place with this distance. I also recognize with, like, you know, the grinding aspect and grinding things down to be able to blend, part of that crumbling, you know, could feel like, oh man, like I'm being ground down. you know, in order for, again, this more seamless integration, for things to be a bit more balanced. Because like in that grinding process, right, like there also is like this kind of creation of more space. And in that space, there's perhaps opportunity, not only for integration, but a healing of sorts. And the reality is like, it's not fun to be these ingredients per se. Like that's not gonna like feel great to be ground down. And we recognize like the necessity of doing that so everything can blend together. And so I think there's a message here also, you know, of being able to keep the wider perspective on the moment, on what's happening, which I feel is always so hard. Like it's so hard when you're in it and you're being ground down and like your nervous system is compressed and it's stressful. You know, and I guess that's that faith and that you know, strength of mind to I mean, as best as you can to keep going and to hold in your mind that like it's just like a part of the process, and you know, it's not a forever thing. And perhaps in recognizing that wider perspective, it allows you to move through it differently and see it differently. Perhaps it's not quite as daunting, or maybe it is, but yeah. Yep. You know, and then it says here about that balance between two relationships. You know, I'm wondering too if there's, you know, a different way for you to position yourself between those two things. You know, just that slight, I mean, just a slight perspective shift can change everything. And I often think about just how like the smallest, like the most subtle movements can make such a massive difference, right? So it's like, I've said this before, but it's like if I'm oriented here and I make just like the slightest pivot here, all of a sudden that's a completely different trajectory, you know? And so we don't always need big sweeping movements. Sometimes it's just the tiniest of adjustments that change everything. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Talked about finesse, being gentle and thorough, taking the time. There's no rush to it. You know, I think sometimes in moments like these too, it can be like good to like anchor and orient and kind of not only remind oneself of like the bigger picture, but to remember like where the focus is and what you're moving towards. See if there's anything else here. Take it one step at a time. Everything will be revealed. You'll know as you need to know. You can trust yourself. You can trust others. People have your best interests at heart. Okay. I'm getting like the sense and feeling with that of kind of newness. Like maybe there's some newer folks in your experience and you really like them, and maybe past experience has made you a little bit like uncertain or a little suspicious or something, hesitant. But the vibe I get with that is that like they're good peeps, they're safe peeps, they really do care and have your best interests at heart. You know, discernment above everything, of course, but that's the vibe I get, is a positive one. You're doing great. You're doing great. Cool. All right, friends. I think that's what we got. That's what we got today. If you enjoyed this, if it connected with you, I appreciate a like and subscribe, or comment if you will. It always helps the algorithm. And please do feel free to check out all the various offerings that I have on my Stan store. The link is in the on the channel homepage in the description. So please give that a go if you're curious. And yeah, all right, friends, we'll see you in the next one. Everybody have a beautiful day.